Alright, welcome back to the warehouse. Today we're going to walk you through how to replace a fork on, this is an XF800. The tools we're going to need for this, we got our 5mm, our 4mm, and a 3mm Allen key. The first step, obviously, is to remove the wheel. Then what you're going to want to do is remove your brake line. So to do that, you gotta loosen these two 5mm bolts and this one 3mm bolt, and that'll remove your brake housing. Next step is to loosen the two 4mm bolts that are clamping the stem on, and then from there, they'll only, for the final bolt to remove is this top one, which I believe is a 5mm.
Make sure as you're removing these bolts to just that you remember the order of like washers and stuff, so that when you reinstall it, then you've got it all there. So that's removed. I'm just gonna kind of hold that. This is a 3mm right here. This brake, I'm going to pull this apart because it's just gonna spill anyway. But I remember that I've got a big stack of washers here and the two fat washers. Okay, I'm just gonna take my 4mm and just loosen these up. These are already kind of loose, so. When you remove this top cap, I'm gonna keep my left hand down underneath this, just because I'm kind of dominant right hand. But I'll keep my left hand pressed up against the bike or the fork, so that it stays in the bike. If you have it on the ground, then that's fine. Just leave your forks resting on the ground as you remove this top cap here. It's a 5mm on this one. Okay. And once I do that, I can go ahead and kind of pull my stem off. And then for now, I'm just gonna let it hang down here. And then I'm just gonna remember the order of stuff I've got on the top here. So 3 spacers. This right here is the dust cap. Push, crown, or something like that. And then I can lower my fork out. And inside here, I should have, this is the bottom bearing, and here's the top bearing. Okay, so we've got our new fork and we are ready to install it on the bike. I make sure that it has this here. This is the crown race, is what this is called. So make sure that is on the fork. Usually we'll send that with it. Then I'm going to install my bottom bearing. I want to make sure that the beveled side is facing up on this. You see that there's kind of like this side is sharp and flat, and this side's got like this bevel on it, or chamfer, or whatever you call that. So anyway, slide that on there. Then I remembered I kind of had my wire split here, so I'm just going to put that right back in the same way. And just slide that up and in. Order this one, so the bevel on the bottom was facing up, the bevel on this top one is going to be facing down. So that slides in. Then I got my whatever push guide pin thing, I forget what they call that. Then your dust cap. Then got my 3 spacers. And I'm gonna flip my stem back to the direction it was in. Slide that on. And then I can begin threading the screw for this top cap back on. And now here's kind of where the important part is as I tighten this, I want to tighten it to the point where it's not so tight. You can kind of feel it. So right there, as I was tightening it, it kind of like reshuffled the bearings inside because it kind of clicked. So you want to go so that it's like tight enough that there's not any play in it, but not so tight that it can't spin freely. So this can spin freely. To check for play, it's easy to kind of grab down here and kind of like wiggle it, and just, you shouldn't hear any clunking or side to side movement. So that feels good where it's at. So it's pretty tight. I'm just gonna show you. I'm kind of like, I don't know, good amount of pressure on there. Next, I'm gonna grab my 4mm and I just look down my line here and center this up with to make sure that this is right in the center of the wheel. I'll tighten these 4mm bolts up. Then the last step is just to install the brake. So in the last bike, the fork that I pulled off, this little piece was on the back, but this one's now on the front. Not a big deal. I'll install that in a second. If it is in the front, the direction that you want to install this brake, so you don't want it to come on the outside like this. You want it to come on the inside. So it's coming from this handle up here, and then it goes on the inside here to the nuts right there. So I gotta remember this one had quite a few washers on it, and also this spacer. If you forget which direction the spacer was at, it's got an arrow there. Arrow points up. And it also can only really, it can't sit this way because it's not flush, so it sits like that. So I have my concave washer and then 3 skinny washers. And this piece. So I'm just using my left hand here to kind of hold that in there. Concave washer. And 3 skinny washers. Okay, and then you can go ahead and starting these. Best to start with your fingers so you don't strip anything. Usually what I like to do on these is tighten them up almost all the way, but I like to leave them a little bit loose so that when I reinstall the wheel, I can readjust the brake to so that it's centered on the rotor, so that I can slide it back and forth before I tighten it all the way up. Thing to add is this the kind of cable guide, I guess is what you can call this. So this one's kind of tricky to start with your fingers, so I kind of like to stick my Allen key in there and then kind of like, you kind of force it on there, but just make sure that it's threading smoothly. Alright, there you go. And this doesn't have to be crazy tight or anything. Okay, now all you gotta do is just install your wheel and readjust the brake and you should be good to go. Thanks for tuning in to our fork reinstallation video. If you guys have any questions or comments, let us know. We will be happy to answer them. Thanks.